It's the Friendly Fire Show, episode 175. It's the first of our three-part E3 2021 series. Today we're going to be looking at Ubisoft, Devolver, Summer Game Fest, and EA / just Battlefield. I am one of your hosts, Steve from Stevivor.
I'm Ben from Stevivor.
And I'm Hamish, also from Stevivor.
There's a lot
we
of...
probably don't need the from Stevivor, Steve, when we have... That's all we have.
Well, when we are Stevivor.
All Stevivor, all white, all males. We're hitting every demographic so well, guys. Well done, us. Was I the only person to get up early this morning? I think I was, from the sound of it.
Yeah, I think this is the first time I haven't watched any of them live so far since like 2010 or something, probably even earlier. Like I've either been there or I've got up early, but Ubisoft and Devolver weren't quite doing it for me. For today, at least.
Well, there you go. I know Hamish was working last night on a video for this morning, so I doubt you woke up early. Is that accurate?
I pretty much went to bed when the conferences started, so...
Oh, wow. That was probably a wise decision, to be honest. But we are going to start with Hamish, because we're going to start with Ubisoft. And unless something drastic happens in the next couple days, Hamish, you have the distinction of being the only Stevivor staffer to do a hands-on with a game at E3 this year. So, one, congratulations. How does it feel?
Oh, so exclusive.
And that game, of course, is Rainbow Six Extraction, formerly Parasite, formerly Quarantine, which has had its name changed for probably very obvious reasons. Did they talk about that a bunch?
Not really. It was kind of like vaguely touched on, but I think they want to try and avoid any kind of like, hey, we've made a game about a pandemic that's like wrecking the United States as much as possible. So
they've already done that with The Division, I suppose. So
yeah.
Did I make up that it was on a space station? I thought it was on a space station, and I don't know why.
I think there was like early stuff that was like shown on a space station or talked about, but I think that's mostly because like in the original Outbreak event in Operation Chimera way back in like 2018,
in Rainbow
it's supposed
Six
to be like in Rainbow Six Siege. It's supposed to be like a satellite or something that crashes, but they think it's a meteor, and so I think that's kind of where that whole thing went. But yeah, it's all, as far as we've seen so far, like we might end up in space because, you know, why not? But they didn't show us that.
So it's not a space station sci-fi alien isolation game. You said it's not a Left 4 Dead game. You can talk about that some more, but then I guess what is it first?
Yeah, so I think like the best kind of parallel you can draw is maybe like Splinter Cell or Metal Gear Solid kind of thing, purely because it's very stealthy. Like you want to be quiet as much as possible, because if you do get a lot of these guys on you at once, these like alien zombie things, because they're like an alien virus, but they're also like zombified people who've died to it. If they get on you, you're in trouble. Like 2 to 3 hits tops, and they'll drop you. And that's at the base level too. That's not even the harder ones that you fight further on down the track. So it's like, yeah, they've kind of like, I guess, gone in on that tactical like element instead of just the like Left 4 Dead horde mode kind of thing, which is good because we're seeing a lot of those other games coming through at E3 now, but we'll touch on that later. But it's like, I think the direction they've gone in is going to make them distinct, I hope. And it kind of stays true to that Tom Clancy Rainbow Six vibe. So,
have you played GTFO before or seen it?
I've seen it.
I'm getting kind of those vibes, or is that, do you know if that's accurate or not?
Not really. Even then, that's too like 4 versus horde, which is definitely not what quarantine. Definitely not what extraction. That's going to take a while to get out of the system. It's definitely not what extraction seems to be about. It seems to be like you occasionally will fight big hordes. Like you have the classic Destiny thing where you stand and defend a point for like, 2 or 3 minutes. And that's the whole gameplay loop for that level. And then you'll get a lot coming at you, but you're probably fighting like 20 to 30 as opposed to like something like World War Z, which had like 300 to 400 per horde event. So yeah, it's a more, like I said, more Rainbow Six style tactical game, less of that like GTFO or Space Hulk, Left 4 Dead, all those kind of games. So, but like it looks good. The gameplay is exactly the same as Siege. Like if you take a gun in Siege and then you go into Extraction, got it right that time. It feels exactly the same. Like you put a silencer in a gun, it shoots like shit. You put like other stuff in the gun, and it's manageable. So it's going to be good, I think, for Siege fans especially. So
that's a good point. Ben, are you a Siege fan or a player?
Or they're going to end up kind of side by side. No.
Yeah, I can see it like a bit of an onboarding.
I played it. I've appreciated it. Yeah. Well, I watched like the finals or something in like 2018 at like in the Paris, whatever that's called. I had no idea about this game. I enjoyed what I watched. There's no way I could do any of that. Super hardcore, high level. So I probably shouldn't jump in there. I should probably go down with some more pleb level players. But see, I always thought Rainbow Six was more tactical, real, yeah, like you, Steve, exactly. Was that kind of like, it's the real SAS is based on that. And then this, it seems like, have they had this kind of alien level vibe before, or is that what the distinction is in Extraction compared to Siege?
Well, they've kind of done what they do is they do limited time events in Siege where they just try out like little different gameplay things. There was like a Wild West one where you only had like single shotguns. There was like a bunch of other ones as well. And Outbreak was, from what I remember, to be the real first of them, and it was thematic because they were introducing two operators that were basically like counter-viral guys. Like they would go in where there was like biological threats and they would deal with it. So it was all thematic, and that was kind of like the start of their return to that player versus environment thing. But as you said, like Siege gameplay normally is completely different. Like you're going against sweat lords and salty boys on like a tactical mil sim type shooter. But I think they've kind of moved away from that across like the 6 or so years that Siege has been a thing. The gadgets are getting more far out. Like it used to just be a dude with a sledgehammer who was like jacked, and now it's like people with, you know, all sorts of funky drones and healing bots and stuff. So I think they've kind of strayed away from that already in like the main game. And I think this is going to move like lockstep, kind of like you said before, where it's like, you know, it's kind of advancing the PvE side of the game a bit more. But I tell you what, this is going to be something that I think will sink it. Is if it's a full price game, I think that's going to be a really hard sell for anyone.
It is pretty much. I've seen it on JB for 79 Australian. There's a deluxe edition, which
cheap these days.
That is cheap. Well,
there's a deluxe edition which is on the Ubi store right now, but I only found American pricing that was $80 for the deluxe edition. With you get like you get skins and weapon skins and charms and gear, but with the deluxe edition you also get 10% off like the in-game store, which is, I guess it's all cosmetic, so it's not like you're buying, it's not like pay to win or anything like that, but that seems a bit strange. And Ubisoft has said that like if you own Siege and not Quarantine Up, Extraction. You'll get like, you automatically get like all the operators unlocked straight away and this and that and the other. So yeah, like it's, I don't know. It seems like I like what I've seen of people playing Siege. I'm awful at Siege. I therefore am not as excited as I used to be for Extraction when I thought it was still like Parasite and like very like spacey themed, and it was something else in my mind. But whatever. Not everything has to be for me. Most things should be, but not everything has to be for me. Anybody else want to say anything else about Extraction before we continue on, or no?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think
that's all I know about it.
I think that for you, actually, like, I don't want to sound like a Siege fanboy here because I'm definitely not. Like, it's got plenty of problems. I think that like Extraction is going to be a really good like pathway in to Siege, and if they can get that like price point right, and I mean, okay, $70 sounds like a lot, but if new games are $120, $130 these days anyway, it's like unfortunately not that much. The gunplay's the same. The operators are basically the same. So it's going to be a good path in. But again, it's a really hard sell for people who have already played like a ton of Siege because, you know, what's different? Is there enough?
I think you kind of did a good job explaining it when you talked, like you and I do when we talk generally. We just relate everything back to Destiny. Like that Siege is the PvP, like the crucible of it. And Extraction is the PvE, you know, lazy Sunday with a mate kind of thing. I don't know. So maybe I will be interested in it. Who knows? I'm done talking about that though. What I would like to talk about is Rocksmith Plus. Much like Disney Plus, I guess. It's the newest subscription-based service to come from Ubisoft. On the yearly basis, it's $149.95, and it's basically like a cool guitar trainer where you can connect your actual guitar to a PC or a console and learn accordingly. It's too expensive, is basically where I want to start this conversation.
Yeah. So do you have to subscribe, or can you not get can you get like just a base game? You have to subscribe.
It's a subscription service. It's like an app, basically. It's not a game.
Okay, that's 3 times too much than what it should have been. So the first 2 Rocksmith games were good. Like the first one was a proof of concept, and the second one kind of fixed all the problems it had and was much better and actually useful to the extent that I could play a couple of songs when it first came out through it, and like it taught me how to do it. I couldn't play them for you now. I'd have to start again. But like I could see how if you committed to it, you would actually learn and it would help you. But you didn't have to buy it. You didn't have to subscribe. You could buy each song separately as you wanted them. I'm glad they followed it up, because having a game called Rocksmith 2014 in 2021 as like the main edition was ridiculous. Terrible name. They didn't think that through at all. It makes sense to be a subscription, but like $20 a year or something, not like $150.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
It's admittedly cheaper than guitar lessons, but also it's not guitar lessons, is it? I don't know. Like,
well, it kind of is, right? Like, I mean, that was going to be my only counterpoint. I think that much money a year is ridiculous. Like $25 a month, I think it was at base. But I mean, a guitar lesson is like $80 a lesson, right? And you're doing like 2 of those a month, maybe. But I don't know. Maybe they missed their boat.
You also have to have a guitar. So like,
yeah, that's true.
So I guess if you have a guitar and you don't like your current instructor, or you haven't been able to see them because of Rainbow Six quarantine, you could get Rocksmith Plus, and maybe you are saving money in that. But that's a very like niche group of people to me. But that's whatever. It's
a specialized market, but at least they've changed it so that you can use your phone, so you don't need to get the cable. More accessible that way. Having said that, I'd prefer to continue to use the cable, because then you can just use headphones. You can hear exactly what the game's telling you and what you're playing. I don't want to have like an electric guitar and an amp and my phone and my TV speakers on. Like that's very loud for anyone else in your house. So I don't know. I didn't actually hear if you could do both options, or if you had to use the phone speaker thing.
Couldn't tell you.
I think the phone speaker thing was just for acoustic stuff, right? So
no, it said you could use electric guitar and an amp as well. So maybe then you can also use the cable, because like you don't really want to have your amp on. You need your TV speakers on so that you can hear the trainer tell you like slow down or whatever. Like that's getting loud. You need headphones to play this game, from my past experience.
And I guess the other element then is if you were already an expert guitarist, you could treat this kind of like Guitar Hero, I guess.
Yeah, basically. They had training for that too, like using tabs, kind of showing this is more like what you would expect to see. But yeah, that was their sell. When I saw it at like E3 2012 or 13, like the very first one, and they were kind of like, Guitar Hero, you can't actually, like, you have to put in hours of work to get good at Guitar Hero and Expert, and you don't really get a skill besides Guitar Hero. So if you put that same time in, you could learn how to play guitar. That was their pitch. But it wasn't really like playing Guitar Hero. It wasn't fun in the same way. So a clear difference.
There you go. We've got a lot to cover, so I'm just going to continue on. And I have a hands-off opportunity to talk about, which is Riders Republic, which I called Fortnite plus Forza Horizon plus Extreme Sports. And like, it's definitely not for me. It's Fortnite looking, but still manages to look realistic. But it's kind of like the Forza Horizon open world of you're like plunked into this condensed map that's supposed to represent like 5 or 6 different national parks in America. And then you mountain bike or you paraglide or something, extreme sports. And like, I guess it's good. And then like, you can go to events, or you can mountain bike to an event and then mountain bike to another event, kind of like Horizon style. And there's like the Forzathon, like mass event every hour in a different location on the map, or you can go to the not the Riders Republic, the Riders something. God, that's horrible. The hub area, which is like the multiplayer social space where you can do different multiplayer games, or you can just chill out with your friends. And then when you get to like the multiplayer of it all, there's one mode that's like Tony Hawk's basically. So like you go in your group of 4 or 3 or something. God, it's been a long day. And you do tricks in the map. And, if you do a trick on this section of the map, it turns your team's color. And the idea is to paint the map your color to win. So kind of just takes cherry picks from different things to make this kind of like extreme sport thing. It's by the people who did Steep, and they got a little bit angry with me when I was trying to like say it's like Steep evolved to different sports and stuff. They were like, no, this is completely different. But that's
Are you sure? Because what you've just described is Steep as I remember it exactly. Even like the do it with your friends, isn't that how you're meant to play Steep? Like,
yeah,
sounds like
this doesn't have snow and mountain bikes.
Okay,
so it's different.
Steep in the style of Fortnite.
Yeah, like it's not for me, but I'm sure that there are people who looked at that and went, oh, that's amazing. Like I can go and do a virtual thing of the Red Bull Rampage, says a fan of Red Bull Rampage, I guess. Any thoughts from you guys?
No, I mean, that's it. Like, it looks like Steep to me. I don't know anything about it besides that. Besides what I saw today, I hadn't really paid any attention to this. Wasn't this game meant to come out like months ago, or is that something else?
Yeah, no, it was it like Far Cry was announced a while ago and they were both delayed. Though I'm excited about Far Cry, but we'll get there in a minute.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it just looks like Steep. Like, it's Steep with mountain bikes. And the fact that they like get angsty at you for saying that it's not that. No, that's ridiculous. But hey, it looks nice. It's pretty. It reminds me a lot of Dirt. I think it was Dirt 5. It's that really like pop arty, Fortnite-y, as you said. But I mean, I'm sure that there's a market for it. It's just not us.
Yeah, well, and it comes out in September now, which is lovely. Something that's already out. So I think I'm doing these in order pretty much in terms of announcements. They talked about Rainbow Six Siege with crossplay and cross progression. 2, I guess, major milestones in 2021. That would be this year. Crossplay and cross progression comes to Windows PC, Amazon Luna, and Google Stadia. And then in 2022, those platforms are joined by Xbox and PlayStation. And by 2022, like everybody's in one big crossplay, cross progression land. And Hamish, you're not a huge fan of Siege, as you said, but you are definitely the go-to in this group for Siege. That's like, what are you going to say about crossplay and cross-progression? Cool, that's awesome. Or no, I hate that. How dare they?
I mean, I think it's probably a bad thing for console players, but it might speak to the actual population that they have at the moment playing the game across all those different kind of platforms. And I guess with the split between last gen and current gen, like maybe that's causing like player base issues for them across both. But I mean, so on Siege, on console at least, there's a really big problem with people plugging in a keyboard and mouse and then just clapping everyone on controller, because like controller is so hard to play with Siege, like you're leaning and stuff. It just doesn't work very well. So I mean, maybe it'll just like even everybody out a bit, but it's good. More crossplay is good.
Correct. And it's on Game Pass. So like Ben and I, for all of our whinging about we don't play it and we should try. I guess like we actually could try, Ben. And now
we played before. Like when it first came out, we played and we were good for like 2 days.
Stomped.
And then
were we ever good?
No, we were good when it was journos only, because yes, because the Australian game journos were not good. They were worse than us. At least I was good. And then it got released and actual people played it and I was terrible. So the level I can play at is other games journalists I will destroy. Not all of them, but some on console. So very small market. There's like 6 people I can play against. Don't even have 2 full teams. And then when it really gets released, terrible.
Well, when crossplay comes out, we can get Hamish and his friends on his Discord server to join us. We'll plug in a keyboard and mouse into our console, and then we'll switch back to a controller because we don't know how to use a keyboard and mouse, and we'll still clap people in Hamish's words.
Exactly.
In young people's speak.
And then I are the same age.
Well, I feel like I'm 50 million years old, except for when Just Dance comes out as part of the Ubisoft Forward presentation. And I feel like a child again, because I love it. I don't care. It should have led the show as it always does. Todrick confirmed that the game was coming out, in case you didn't know. It's the second year, I think, that it's not out on a Wii, which is shocking because
Wow.
that was like one of the mainstays like of the original Wii, not just Wii U. But anyway, I don't think we have to speak anymore about Just Dance unless any of you have.
No, I do have one question. How does this play this? So like obviously Switch uses Joy-Con. How do you play this now that Kinect is dead and whatever PlayStation has the camera, I guess?
Oh yeah, I guess you could still use PlayStation camera, but for the most part it's like an app on your phone and you just hold it in your hand. So like you could literally just do this to dance if you really wanted to. But you know, like where's the fun in that then?
Where's the flair?
Exactly.
Isn't there a RuPaul song in there now too? I saw.
It's not quite a RuPaul song, but it's Todrick Hall, who is a choreographer who works with a lot of drag queens and is on RuPaul's Drag Race. His song's called Hair, Legs, Hips. Nope, that's not it. It's he's rewriting that song to be probably more like child friendly instead
PG.
of like hunty. But that was with an H, by the way. And they're filming a new music video to go along with it. So nice and wholesome, which is fine. That's that. Ben, you're basically the Valhalla expert, I've decided. So they announced two things for that game: the Siege of Paris expansion, which comes out our winter time, and then Discovery Tour Viking some such title. I'm good at this, which comes out following that. One is free, one is paid. The expansion's paid. Take it away. What do you think?
And they announced the third thing, which is this is, I think, the first Assassin's Creed game that's going to get support in a second year, because presumably there is no new Assassin's Creed this year, which is excellent news. As we've discussed, the best recent Assassin's Creed, Origin and Valhalla, both had a year off before it. So by the time it comes out, you're not totally over Assassin's Creed. It feels kind of new. A year off is a lot for Assassin's Creed. Good news. I suppose them bringing more expansions. So we've already had one, the one which was delayed and just came out. Thanks, Steve.
You're welcome.
The Siege of Paris is basically that exactly. It's just reliving the historical Siege of Paris with the fictional Assassin's Creed kind of lens over it. What they do next year, I'm not sure. Like, how many expansions do we need? I don't know about you guys, but often by the time the Assassin's Creed expansions come out, I finish the game, I just can't be bothered going back because it's like you're level 50. You need to remember what you're doing. Where do you go? And it's so much on the map that I can't be bothered getting into it. So I've struggled to get it. As much as Valhalla is great, I struggle to get excited for there's more expansions coming next year because I don't think I can be bothered doing that.
Hamish, is optimistic? Yay, they're supporting this game and not making you buy another like full priced Assassin's Creed game, or is it this is like kind of a subtle way of making this like a game as a service, and they want me to just like stay with this game until the end of time, or is there a middle somewhere?
Maybe it's a middle somewhere. I mean, good. It's good of them to have more of that like after support. But as Ben said, like an example of that for me is like Dark Souls 3. The last expansion came out like a year and a half or something, or a year after it finished, and I'd played through the first expansion and like the game, and I just could not be bothered going back and learning how to play again for starters, because that's always a big thing in games like even Valhalla, where it's like combos and stuff. It's like you have to remember what to do. But yeah, I mean, I haven't played an Assassin's Creed game since like oh man.
Oh, what was your last
one? Black Flag. I think Black Flag was the last one I played.
Oh, that was goodie.
Skip Origins.
Is it Origins? And I think I have Odyssey as well, but I just haven't played them.
Skip Origins, go straight to Odyssey. And this is kind of going back to what Ben was saying. I love an Assassin's Creed game, but it always comes out in a weird time, and I usually play like 5 minutes of it, and then I have to set it aside and then eventually go back to it. And I didn't get back to Odyssey until all of the DLC was out. And I saw my husband playing it for a bit, and I just fell back into it like hard. And I went from like 5 minutes of playtime. I think when I finished, it was like 95 hours, and I burned through everything. And it's encouraging if you're someone who didn't get to Valhalla and you come back and like you have this complete package, because you might not want to do some of the weird side quests, even though they're pretty good. There's so much of that Ubisoft just like map bloat of like there's 15 million points to wherever you're standing. But if you have like all of the expansions and all of the game, you can kind of skip some of the superfluous stuff and just do like the good story-based thing, and that will take you for a while. But yeah, like if like you were saying, Ben, if you have skipped out for a while, having to get your brain back there is difficult.
So my question then is like, what's the point of playing the game when it comes out? Why don't you just wait until all the like DLCs are released and just plow through it all then when it's cheaper? and you have everything to play, and there's no big break in the middle, right? So
I think that's a virtue that comes to people who are patient. Yeah, it's not me either. Ben, are you going to just like skip all of Valhalla's DLC until one final push at the end?
No, I think I'm done with the game. I'm already lost. Like, I tried to play the most recent one. When you were here, I tried to play it briefly and I couldn't remember. Like, I played it hardcore for 2 or 3 weeks, finished it, and that's it. Like, I don't remember where I'm going. I don't remember any of my abilities or what I was trying to do. So, yeah, I find it too hard. The Discovery Tour is always really cool, though. That's not really a game at all. It's just a history lesson. So, I might check that out because that's always interesting. It's a fun, easy way to check it out, and I think like they even use that in schools and stuff. Like it's actually pretty good.
And it's free, regardless, I think, of whether you own the base Valhalla game or not. And it's like you don't have to learn how to do anything; you just walk. So that's good. You don't have to be familiar with what's going on. Anything else on that? Cool. The next thing that they covered was Far Cry 6. They did like a big deep dive into it a couple weeks ago. I did a preview, I think at the end of May. But we got a look at like another scene with Giancarlo Esposito as Anton Castillo. And he's just a jerk. Like, I don't know if we want to talk about that at all. There's probably a bigger piece of news. Do we want to talk about Anton first? Any thoughts on his extreme heel turn? In case you didn't realize he was a jerk. He was a jerk. You can watch the video.
No, I didn't realize anything different.
Yeah, I mean, okay. He's the bad guy, I assumed.
Yeah.
He kills people because he's the dictator of Yara. The big news, I guess, is that as part of the season pass, there's this new game mode where you can play as Voss from Far Cry 3, or Pagan Min for Far Cry 4, or Joseph Seed from Far Cry 5 in some sort of mode where you're the villain, and if you die, everything kind of resets. So I guess it's like a procedural rogue-like kind of thing, maybe. I don't know. What do you guys take from it?
Pass on that mode for me. It doesn't look very good at all. It seems like that there's always been the experimental or the side Far Cry. There was Blood Dragon, which apparently is also part of the season pass somehow, or for some pointless reason. There was New Dawn. Like, there's always this, we've got a bit extra Far Cry. It's the idea we didn't really fully flesh out. Here it is later. They're just chucking it in season pass. It might be interesting, but I don't know. It didn't do anything for me at all.
I mean, I think it's interesting. I think it's good to see them playing with that formula a bit, because to me, Far Cry has got a bit stale. I think I played 5. Is that the one with Joseph Seed?
Yeah, that was the cult one in America.
I played that one, and it was too much. You know, there's too much going on in Far Cry games now. It's like they're just constantly going at you. You can't drive 100 meters without getting attacked by someone. So I think having like experimental modes might push them in a better direction. But I think also relying on like old villains, like Voss is like a big thing, right? He's a meme now, so he's like a massively successful piece of Far Cry content. But
I think that's kind of the problem. I think since Voss was so iconic, like Far Cry has basically just been trying to chase that with each iteration. And like, I think if you want to do that, you get Giancarlo Esposito to come and be your bad guy. Like, I think they're onto something here. But also, like, do you need that reminder of the villains when you're trying to put him front and center? I don't know. Like, I like Voss. I thought Pagan Min was a bit on the nose for some stereotypical reasons that they anyway. And like, I liked Joseph Seed, but it was weird. And then I didn't play, what was the spin-off from that?
New Dawn.
Didn't play it. Just because it's a lot of Far Cry and it's not a number. I'm excited for this, but I'm also, like, I don't know if I'd care about it as much as the main game, which looks really cool. And like, I like exploration and holstering your weapon and exploring. That is something new to Far Cry, which I'm kind of excited for. So who knows? Hamish, do you have a Switch? No,
I don't have
then
a Switch.
You're not going to be able to play Mario. Well, maybe you can buy a fancy new Switch because it looked pretty good, but we'll get there in a second. Mario and Rabbids Sparks of Hope, which is a Nintendo Switch game, which I was already in bed. Hamish, you were awake for this at about midnight last night before the 5 o'clock Ubisoft forward. Apparently, Nintendo just like put the game up on all of its storefronts by accident. So it wasn't really a surprise. But anyway, it's the sequel to the first Mario and Rabbids game on Switch. and it's basically like Super Mario Galaxy. Ben, you're probably the target audience out of the three of us for this game, so take it away.
To a small degree, except I haven't played the first one because it's like that turn-based combat, which is great in like Paper Mario and those type of games, but I just couldn't be bothered playing it at the time. It kind of blends that, from what I can tell, with, you know, like Mario 64 style movement, combining them together. So yeah, you're right. It looks like Odyssey. It looks like we've done Mushroom Kingdom. What did Mario in the real games do next? Well, he actually went on like a holiday to a tropical island, but they've skipped that and they've gone to Galaxy. Let's go bigger. Yeah, it's probably, you know, the last game was pretty well received. It's probably pretty good. Very funny that Nintendo, of all people, leaked it, because Ubisoft pretty much, when we get to the end of talking about them, they announced almost nothing new. Their whole show was, here's some games that are already out, which we're updating. Here's some stuff you already knew about. Here's several games which were meant to be up by now, but they're not. So they're key content in RE3. And we've got a couple of new games. And this was basically half of the new content. So disappointing, but it'll sell pretty well. It's a rare example of Nintendo licensing their characters. So they obviously have faith in Ubisoft to do well.
Yeah, it's very much like a cutesy XCOM. It's cutesy Mario, but it's like actually pretty difficult. I really liked it, the first one, that is. And I'm excited for the second one. It's gonna be a little bit more of the same, and I kind of hate Rabbids with a fiery passion. I think they look creepy and they kind of scare me, or unnerve me, perhaps is a better word. But anyway, before we get into the last thing, I'm skipping the last thing that we're going to talk about with Ubisoft. It was actually the last thing. Before Ubisoft Forward proper, they gave a release date for Watch Dogs Legion Bloodline, which is the content with Aiden Pierce, the protagonist from the original Watch Dogs. I think it's the 6th of July or something along that line. I don't know if there's much to say about it. It seems really cool. I'm excited for it. I was excited for it when it was announced, but that was, you know, like a year and a half ago. So any thoughts before we continue on?
I'll play it. We talked about this last episode. I haven't really played Legion despite really liking it when I played like 5 hours at E3 years ago now. And then I got home and I played Watch Dogs 2, which I'd skipped, and I really liked that. So yeah, I'll play it. It is interesting how when Watch Dogs 1 came out, people kind of panned Aiden Pierce as this boring protagonist. And now with the, you know, time passing and Watch Dogs Legion not having a protagonist, you know, he's in that new light of people thinking, actually, he wasn't that bad. There was something to work with, and let's see how his story kind of ended, because there's no doubt they ditched him because of the response he got.
Yep.
I mean, he was pretty white bread, I think. He was just that classic, when did it come out? Like 2010-ish? That classic old protagonist who just barely said anything and was just boring. And then Watch Dogs 2 like went the complete opposite direction, which was great and fun. And then Legion obviously killed the idea, so it's good to have him back. I guess maybe they can do more with him this time, but
I'd like to see some story. It was that thing of like Assassin's Creed. Watch Dogs was definitely like a tech demo of what they could try to do or wanted to do, and like vastly different from the trailer that kind of like set our expectations way higher than they probably should have been. But I guess looking at this list from Ubisoft before I get into the last thing that they announced, like there was updates for Honor and the crew, but like and like you were saying, Ben, there's like and Hamish, there's the open world 50 million things to do game in 7 flavors right now, or there's Siege or Siege space but not in space, or Just Dance, or like that's it. It's weird. Like we didn't see a Splinter Cell, which I got so excited for. I thought the thing at the end, because I forgot about, you know, how the world works, I thought it was going to be Splinter Cell. We didn't see anything from Skull and Bones. We didn't see Beyond Good and Evil 2. Like it's I'm just gonna say it. Ubisoft's press conference really disappointed me. Thoughts?
Agreed. I think we've in previous years talked about how Ubisoft was often the surprise, because you would expect that either Xbox, when Sony was still there, or Nintendo was going to have the major announcements. And we often said something at Ubisoft was what we were most surprised with, because either it hadn't leaked somehow, now everything they do pretty much leaks, or it was just something different. And it was when their games felt different, like the Watch Dogs trailer you're talking about. You know, we just come off so many Assassin's Creed games, and then Watch Dogs felt totally different, and it looked like this is a great new IP that's going in a different direction. In the end, it followed a pretty similar formula to the Ubisoft map game, it was kind of part of that group which started this whole problem. So to come out, only announce really 2 games, one of them was already leaked, and the other stuff was heavily reliant on stuff which has been delayed, which is all very similar, as you just said. So I think we kind of saw this coming. We knew that there's that kind of lag from COVID. So delaying games last year has had that roll-on effect, and probably should have expected it. But yeah, it's probably the weakest Ubisoft conference I've seen in the last 10 years of covering it.
Yeah, I think it's probably tonally setting what E3 is going to be this year, right? Because as you said, COVID lag is a thing. And yeah, it's just flat. Like, I'm not excited. I normally get pretty pumped about Ubisoft stuff for various reasons. They are the guys who used to try different things. And now, like you said, like even Nintendo's leaking their stuff now. So it's like, you know, I feel kind of sorry for them at the same time. But what are you going to do? That's like the world we live in now, right?
Well, I don't think it's going to get better from Ubisoft. Like they've come out and said that, you know, they're going to still do their AAA tent poles, but, you know, they're working on freemium, you know, like games as a service, free to play things. And like, I don't know, it's not encouraging. I love Ubisoft. I like a lot of their stuff, but like there's nothing really in the list of games that I was super pumped for. Like I'll play Mario and Rabbids. I will try Extraction. I will probably frustrate people like Hamish with my ineptitude. And like Just Dance is Just Dance, like every year I'm in, but like nothing exciting, nothing jaw-dropping. And, you know, like Yves Guillemot came on at the end and, you know, like blah, 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 I'm talking. It's like, yeah, come on, Yves. Like let's get to like what's your one last thing? Let's go. What is it? Splinter Cell? It's going to be It was not Splinter Cell. It was Avatar Frontiers of Pandora, because for some reason we are still being told that Avatar is a thing we should care about. Do either of you actually care about Avatar? That's my leading question. We won't even get into the game just yet. Do you care about Avatar?
Not really. And where the hell did this come from? Like it was
5 years ago.
It didn't get leaked. They've had to go to something. Yeah, they've had to go to something that we would never guess to get a non-leaked game, basically. Because I don't know. The biggest surprise for me is Avatar, the Twitter account, tweeted this. Why does Avatar have an active Twitter account? That's crazy. Like these movies are never coming out, right? So I don't know what's going on.
Because James Cameron's pumping money into it, I guess, and we're encouraged to think that it's good. I don't know. Like it looked good. Hamish, did it not look great? Like visually.
I mean, yeah, visually it looked great, but like a lot of Ubisoft games do, right? They look pretty decent. Why do we need an Avatar game? Why?
Because there's 17 Avatar movies coming out.
What's that? Is it Outriders? That's basically an Avatar game with like some Destiny type crap bolted on. It's like, I just don't think that there's demand for it. But hey.
Yes, exactly. Like the world suits... The Avatar world suits a game. Like it could make a great game. There was like a standard movie cash in at the time, but there's potential there, but there's no demand, as you say, Hamish. I don't think there's anyone really who wants that. They're banking on these movies will actually come out, maybe, and then people are going to be into it again. Like they're trying to get ahead of the curve. But yeah, it was a surprise because why did it happen?
It's like it's a first-person game with bows and arrows and Avatar weapons, and it looks sci-fi because it's on a different planet, but it's, you know, like I'm imagining it's going to be like Far Cry with different things and probably 8 million things to do on a map and stuff. Like it's that same like variation of the theme. And if it was like all my monitors just turned off. You could see the drastic lighting change. If this was like middle of the show announcement, yeah, okay, cool, whatever. Like this is what you ended on. That's telling, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Yeah, that's why. Right? That's why it was disappointing. They didn't have that. Yeah, they didn't have that big end to finish on, which they normally have something, which is like that's Eve's thing. One last thing. Here's something good, which is not coming out for a while, but we've got an idea here to show you, like a teaser or something, and that's what we always talk about. And I don't think they're going to have one for a couple of years.
Well, next year will be the next Avatar game.
Yeah, I think like I get really big Horizon Zero Dawn kind of vibes from it. Maybe it's their answer to that. But no, fix the Division. Don't make Avatar.
Yeah.
Well, Ben, we haven't done an expert segue in a while, but check out this expert segue. The Devolver the Devolver Max Pass.
That was great.
Oh my god, the Devolver Max Pass Plus press conference presentation came out, and as I was watching that, I got the pricing for Rocksmith Plus and putting up like $150 a year at the same time that I'm watching on my screen like Devolver monetizing everything gaming as like a joke, and it's like, oh, that's like hitting pretty hard actually. Do you want to talk? Did you guys have a chance to check out the Devolver press conference, like on the whole?
I watched it. I struggled to pay attention because it was just too cringy for me. Like that joke of we're monetizing subscriptions so you can buy stuff again. Kind of, I can see the joke there, but they went on too long and they did it too often. And for some reason, they were slamming hot dog sound like too much, which is kind of a throwback to us. Like 2014 E3, we're looking for a hot dog cart because we're so hungry, and that would have been great. But yeah, it didn't quite fit in. They eventually got to the games, but it was kind of like we booked 45 minutes, guys. We've got 8 minutes of content. How can we fill the rest? Well, let's really bring this joke out. Like, yeah, I struggled to pay attention, to be honest.
Aim?
I skimmed through it because, I mean, no.
It was funny, and then it wasn't funny, and then it was funny, and then it was not funny, and then it was kind of funny, and then it was not funny, and then they like just kind of took it to the ground. They did like a non-fungible token joke, but they called it a non-F-wordable token, and like funny, but like that went on a little too long. They sold it like the one VHS tape for $1,000, but they gave that to charity. So like it's like for every good point, there's like an equally stupid point or bad point. So like whatever. There were 3 games that I thought were kind of neat that I want to talk about quickly. I don't know if you guys had any more, but Trek to Yomi is like a side-scrolling black and white kind of Kurosawa-inspired samurai game, because we haven't had enough of those of late. But it looked pretty good. So that comes out, I think, next year, maybe this year. I don't know if you guys want to talk about it. I can just like run these off really quickly, and then you can talk about whatever you want.
Run them off.
There was a mobile game called Devolver Tumble Time, which I don't know if it's real or not. Like, it was making fun of all of the mobile games where it's free to play and you do, like not like a Bejeweled match puzzle, but like I think Pokemon Cafe or whatever it's called is very similar. Like, you have a play space and you have to like swipe the same things to, physics puzzle them away. I think it's real, but I'm not sure if it was just them making fun of it or not. But if they are putting it out and there's ads in this, like, it's at what point is it not a joke anymore and Devolver's making money off people watching ads on their phone, like they were saying that you shouldn't be doing, like everything else about the presentation. And then Phantom Abyss, which was actually good, looks like a cross between like Mirror's Edge with like first person parkour and like a temple run, like temple run, one hit, get as far as you can kind of thing. Sorry, that was it. That was me Devolver digitaling everybody. What do you guys want to talk about or not want to talk about?
I agree. I think that was the best looking game, Phantom Abyss. Looked like what I want to play. They did hit really hard, like premium product. This is I think the woman said this is definitely not coming to a subscription, which is okay. That's your joke that you're making. But does that mean none of these games would ever come to Game Pass? Because that's the only way I would ever play any of them. So they've really kind of locked themselves into not jumping on there. So I'm not going to ever buy any of these.
The big joke was that the Devolver Max Pass Plus was a free subscription service that gave you the ability to get games via payment. So like every game that they announced, like, it's like world premiere. Every game was announced with premium product. Like, yeah. I don't know. Like, I think you got that. I don't know why I felt the need to explain the joke to you, but there you go.
Yeah, I got that. But they just made it sound like we're never going to, these games are not going to go to Game Pass ever. Is pretty much what they were saying. So, okay, I won't play them. Like, you're in the market, Devolver, of the type of game that I would stumble across in Game Pass and maybe try. And that's why we've talked about that before. That's why it's a big success. You try different stuff. None of these games I would go out and buy. So I think they do it. I get what they're doing. They're doing we need to kind of hit the opposite angle. Everyone's doing this. We're not going to get into that. I don't know that it works for them.
I mean, Devolver's whole thing is like $20 to $30 indie titles, right? That's the niche in the market they fill. So that's perfect for Games Pass. Like, that's like the audience, as you said,
Yeah.
before Games Pass. But like, Phantom Abyss looks cool, but if you just get one go at like one of those temples and then that's it, that is infuriating. Like, I don't see that being like a long-term thing.
How hard did it look? Super hard. Like, it's kind of like the appeal of it, but yeah, like if it's just going to be like frustrating, that's unfun. Carrion, which is one of like my favorite games of the last couple of years, was a Devolver game, which was similarly priced, but on Game Pass. So like, it's that thing of like the Tumble Time mobile bit, I guess. Like, at what point does the joke end, and like when does seriousness kick in? I don't know. And they went as far as that Demon Throttle, which is a Switch game. Like, it's not available digitally, from what they're saying. Like, you have to buy it as a cartridge, which I don't do that anymore. No, thank you. I don't know. Devolver Digital. I guess, you know what? Like, honestly, more people looked at stuff that we wrote about Devolver than we did about Ubisoft today so far. I don't know if that's going to last, but like, they're doing something different. So you got to applaud them for that.
Yeah, I mean,
I think they announced more new games. Yeah, they announced more new games than Ubisoft did, right? So as much as they padded it out for hours, it felt like hours with this terrible joke, they had content that Ubisoft didn't. So, and they were better than Gearbox. I don't know if you guys watched that followed it up, who had nothing, because so Gearbox had already announced, I think we're going to chat about it later, Tiny Tina's Wonderland. So they focused on that, and Randy Pitchford did a walk around the Borderlands movie set for like 15 minutes, but really awkwardly, because he was like some guy just kind of filming in the corner, and it was just like him like, oh, hey, this is E3 right here, this guy, and the director's being like, oh, okay, hi, like, what is this? So Gearbox is definitely going to win worst presentation. Prime example of, you do not need to do an E3 presentation if you don't have more than 5 minutes of content. Statement,
don't need to talk about it. Why are they taking some photos of actors in Borderlands the movie, like completely backlit? So it's like who's that Pokemon? And they're like, here's a set from the photos. God, here's a photo from the set of Borderlands. No, it's not. It's like someone backlit. You can see like their outline. That's not a photo of the Borderlands. Anyway, moving on. Are we moving on? Summer Games Fest.
Yeah, that was the whole show. So,
I mean, the one thing I think we haven't talked about yet was that Wizard with a Gun, which looks okay to me.
Oh yeah,
that looks like interesting. I really like the art style, but it reminds me too much of Don't Starve. Do you remember that game from like years? And I hated that game.
Oh yeah.
So,
yeah.
I'm hopeful that it's not like that game, but it looks like that game. So
if it was on Game Pass, would you play it?
I would. I would try it if it was on Game Pass. I would not spend $30 on it. So
this is a 3-beer podcast for me, and I regret nothing. Do we want to talk about Summer Game Fest then? Because Ben sort of segued, and then Hamish pulled us back. Unprofessional, Hamish. You should,
That's what I do.
Get with. No, I'm just kidding. Let's talk about that one first. Tina Turner's Wonderlands. Tina's Wonderlands. I don't know. Maybe Tina Turner's Wonderlands would be a better game, to be honest. It's like Borderlands with a Dungeons and Dragons. Tina has an imagination. Go play a game twist. I have zero interest in Borderlands to begin with, so that is continuing on. That's extending for me into Wonderlands. Take it away, you guys. Unless you're the same opinion.
Pretty similar. They seem to hit this pretty hard with the Andy Samberg, 3 other celebrities who I've already forgotten. Like, that was their main pitch of like, we've got celebrities, but they didn't really show them. So yeah, they made a big deal of, if you haven't played Borderlands, you can start here. We kind of get it. It's hard to go into Borderlands 3 having not played the others. You're not really into the world. You could start here instead. That seems to be their sales pitch. So I'm not really that interested, but I can see what they're trying to do.
I don't like the gameplay or the humor, to be honest.
Borderlands 3 was hot garbage, in my opinion. So it feels like this is kind of like trying to pull people back and to be invested in the IP again, because I think Borderlands 2 had that Tiny Tina DLC as well, and it was like a rampaging success. So I think maybe they're trying to like be like, oh shit, we need to patch the boat.
Yeah. So and everyone loves Ashley Birch, and you should, because she's great. But like, okay, cool. It's still the same game, but like it's a new game, but a different game in the same game at the same time. Hurrah. Sorry, did I cut you off, Haim?
I didn't have anything else good to say. I was just going to rag on Borderlands 3 some more because that game is so boring.
I'm 3 beers deep, so I'm loose now. Two. Actually, I'm 2 beers deep. I'm into, you know what I mean. Something that was actually very much up my alley is Evil Dead, the game, which was announced last year. it's basically Dead by Daylight, but Evil Dead, which is hilarious because Ash Williams is in Dead by Daylight, but that's beside the point. It's a 4 player co-op game where there's going to be someone controlling a Kandarian demon. So, like, it's literally just Dead by Daylight, and it's just like fully leveraging the Evil Dead franchise. So you can play as like Ash, his sister. You can play as the king guy from Army of Darkness. You can play as Pablo and Kelly from Ash versus Evil Dead, which is on Stan. If you haven't seen it, you should, because it's great. Did you guys check out this game?
Not at all. So I'll take your word for it.
It's so good. Haim?
Yeah, I watched the stuff for it. I mean, I think it looks good. But the performance that the guy who voices Ash, or plays Ash, gave in that trailer was so phoned in, which was terrible. But I just how do you feel this space that the only game that's successful in this space is Dead by Daylight? Like, you look at Friday the 13th.
Done.
I mean, you could even say Evolve. Yep. Games like that, have tried to do this asynchronous multiplayer and just failed. And Dead by Daylight has succeeded and is now doing a zombie thing with Resident Evil stuff, where there's going to be zombies, which is obviously what Evil Dead's thing is as well, because you see they're fighting the zombies. Is it just the player? I assume that the other player just controls the demon and not the zombies themselves.
Yeah, the Deadites are just going to be around, so it's probably a little bit less sneaky than Dead by Daylight. But then Ash is in Dead by Daylight, and like you were saying, Dead by Daylight is the Fortnite of this genre. they're doing a Resident Evil crossover soon.
Yeah.
So I have Dead by Daylight, which I already love. If you guys haven't played it, by all means, jump on with me, because it's so good, and I actually know what I'm doing, and I can show you how things work, and it's good. But I can play as Ash already, and I can play as Leon and Claire and the Nemesis and Freddy Krueger and Jason and Michael Myers. And the thing that I like about Evil Dead is it looks really good, but at the end of the day, it's you play as the demon or these 6 Evil Dead characters, and I don't know if there's a lot of maps or anything yet. So I'm excited for it, but I'm also I think it's gonna go the Ilphonic Predator Hunting Grounds. That's what I was thinking of, or Friday the 13th, or blah 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 route. Sadly,
yeah, I think as long as it's so, to me, the problem with Dead by Daylight is fixing generators is boring as fuck. Sitting there, hitting a QuickTime event. I hate QuickTime events in games anyway, and that's the entire gameplay loop of Dead by Daylight. So if Evil Dead does that better, I'm absolutely here for it. And like you said, it looks so much better. Dead by Daylight is dated. It's a 2016 game, I want to say.
Something like that.
And it's very, very dated by now in 2021. So I think there is potentially a market for a more interesting, because they were using guns and stuff too, which you can't fight back really in Dead by Daylight at all. You throw pallets and stuff or jump through windows. But so I think there's a potential niche there. And you're seeing a lot of indie games come through at the moment on Steam. So maybe you guys don't see them as much, where it's this 4 players and a monster. Phasmophobia is kind of an example of that, but there's ones that's more you must break this thing and then do this other thing, and then you kill the demon and then you win. And so if that's the direction they're going in a AAA title, I think that'll be good. But if they're trying to take on Dead by Daylight, you've got no chance.
And it's on Game Pass now too. So so you have no excuse not to play with me then. There you go. Something that's not on the list, but I think Hamish was kind of talking about it before and was at Summer Game Fest, is Warner Brothers and Turtle Rock's Back 4 Blood, which is obviously a Left 4 Dead clone, because it's the Left 4 Dead people making a game because they don't have the rights to call it Left 4 Dead. It's Left 4 Dead some more. Are you excited, or was that 10 years ago? What are you both feeling about that at this point?
10 years ago to me, but yeah, and I got into Left 4 Dead 1 initially, and then 2 had that. Was it 2 that had the whole thing of it's censored and it's dodgy in Australia and everything's green, and so it was more just funny to me. I didn't actually ever get into playing it, and I never got back to it when it got normal. So it was, I never really followed it beyond that. Don't know if you guys did.
I played a lot of it. The original Left 4 Dead, especially, actually, and a fair bit of Left 4 Dead 2, even though it was like you said, the crappy kind of censored version. So there's definitely some like nostalgia. But I also reinstalled Left 4 Dead 2, I want to say it was last year, when they released that update with like 21 new maps and stuff like that. And I just didn't play it because it's so dated. Again, and we're coming back to that thing where it's a dated format, right? Like you stand there with guns that just make noises and kill zombies. Like they don't feel good to use, like in Siege or even Call of Duty. Like guns in that feel great. These are just like sticks of death, essentially. You just sit there and just like blap away. What's it called? World War Z did that very well, but that's because there was like a million zombies in a horde. So I think I'm worried about Back 4 Blood with that card system that they have.
Oh, yeah.
It's like don't do that. That's lame. You know? We'll see.
I know I shout out to your Discord server. Hi guys. Say hi if you want, Hamish. Call them out by name. You do too, you want. Like you need a group like that though to play games. Like Ben, I love you so much, but you know, like the two of us struggle to play games together as it is, and then like trying to rope Hamish in or something, or roping in 2 other people. Like I don't got time for that. It's I'd love to, but I don't have time for that.
Yeah, I mean, as you said, we just have this, like, I have a couple of servers on Discord that I use. Being a PC gamer is better for that because it's easier than consoles, right? So we're playing a game at the moment. It's terrible. It came out in 2018, Space Hulk Deathwing, which is basically Left 4 Dead again, but it's set in the 40K universe. And so that works because it's terrible by yourself or like with 1 or 2 people. But if you get 4 people, then you're just standing there like blapping Tyranids for like, 45 minutes. It's kind of fun. And I think that's what Back 4 Blood's shooting for as well. So you just need blapping. Blapping.
That's a young kid word, blapping. I don't know if you can blap things in Jurassic World Evolution 2, but that was a game that was announced. I loved the first one. I don't know if you've played it, the park building kind of sim by Frontier Developments, who did Zoo Tycoon and most of the Tycoons, if not all of the Tycoons. I don't have much to say about it. I just thought it was neat that it had an announcement, and it's like one of those games that we didn't know about a week ago, and I'm actually excited for it.
It's done that thing where I haven't played the first one, but it is in Game Pass. So having watched the trailer for the sequel, which I know is now coming, I'm going to go play the first one. I don't know if that might have been its intention or not, but that's a very E3 thing for me. Like you see something which is coming up and I realize, oh, I didn't play the last one. I should go back and play it. So it's worked on that front.
And it's got Jeff Goldblum, right? Who doesn't love that guy?
And Bryce Dallas Howard.
Yeah, and who doesn't love that chick?
Less of a draw card, admittedly, than Jeff Goldblum, but like, it's no fault of her own. He's Jeff Goldblum.
How do you compete with that, right?
Exactly. This is not my thing at all, but probably the biggest thing I'd say of Summer Game Fest was the release date of Elden Ring, which I forgot to write down in my notes, but Hamish, maybe from the look on your face.
January sometime. I have it open.
Sweet.
January 21.
2022.
2022, not this year, no. That's past.
We've heard nothing about this game basically since it was announced ages ago, and now it's not like a long drawn out thing, and it's not like, oh, you're going to get this in August, but then it'll get delayed 5 times to like I'm cool with at least that aspect of the announcement. That's all I know about Elden Ring. I know nothing about it's like Dark Souls but with George R.R. Martin and pots with hands.
Yeah, I think Hamish. This is Hamish all over it.
Yeah,
this is not us, Steve.
The floor is yours.
It's super exciting. I think it's a very From Software thing to do, to just not announce like a release date until like super close, because I think that was the case with Dark Souls 3 and Dark Souls 2 and the Sekiro and all those other ones, which I haven't actually played. I'm excited. Like, I love that super challenging but super fair style of like From Software games. I love George R.R. Martin's books, not so much his TV shows. But yeah, I think there was a lot of toxicity actually that's been floating around this game online, because people are excited for it. I shouldn't say players yet because the game's not out, but they were like, oh, it's disrespectful. How could they not give us a release date? How could they not drop a trailer? Which is ridiculous. Like, it's the most entitled bullshit I've ever seen, but it's classic, like that kind of gamer, right? But now we have it. We have this release date. The trailer looked fucking amazing, to be like perfectly blunt. Like, it looked so good, and I'm so excited to get absolutely spanked by this game in January of next year. So
I'm not, but like I can appreciate that it looks really cool. I'm imagining that, well, like, I don't know. It seems like there'll be more of a narrative thing to it potentially because of George R.R. Martin, or maybe not. Like maybe he's written all this lore in the background that From is kind of like thinking it's referencing really well, but like you're going to have to be a super sleuth to figure out what's actually going on. But like anyone who likes a From Software game, I understand why they like this. I get it. And it looks pretty. I'm not going to play it. Ben, are you going to give it a shot? Probably not. I'm going to go out and say no.
No chance.
Try it for me. Experience the
if it
pain.
goes, when it comes to Game Pass, I'll try it. So never.
Hey, it might. If Sony does a Game Pass, it might end up there, right? So
yeah.
Bloodborne was like one of my favorite reviews I've ever written, but oh god, let's not get into that. Anything else from Summer Game Fest that I didn't put in our little notes here that you guys wanted to talk about? I don't think there's much else, to be fair. But
that was it.
Something that might happen, which is still a rumor, is that Back 4 Blood may be a Game Pass day one launch thing. Good sentence ending, Stephen. But we don't know yet.
That would be good.
We'll know tomorrow, the 14th of June, probably during Microsoft's press conference. But if not, there's a Back 4 Blood PvP thing that follows a couple hours later. We're almost done. Sorry, guys. I know this is running a little bit long. The last thing I want to talk about was EA's E3 contributions, which was in the form of one game, which was Battlefield 2042, not 2142. I feel like, Ben, you're probably the guy to give us the overview.
Well, when it leaked, I thought we've already had that game. And then I quick Google, you're right, it was 2142 we had. So this is how much they're blurring together for me. Okay, yeah. So we haven't had Modern Warfare. We've had 42. We've had them 43 at some point. Then we went to Super Future. Now we've got Modern-ish. The biggest surprise here is, be alarmed, guys. 2042 is 21 years away. Like, this is near future. It sounds like it's ages away, but apparently not. But yeah, so no campaign, which is, it's got some people riled up. But basically, the original Battlefield games never had a campaign, so not really a surprise. What they had instead was, if you don't have any friends to play with or you don't want to play online, you can play the proper multiplayer against bots, which is very early 2000s because your broadband might have been used. Your mum was on the phone, so you can't play online. That's why that existed. I don't think anyone will use that, but it's good to be back. I never thought the Battlefield campaigns were any good until 1 and 5, which were, we need to compete with COD. We're going to do like based on World War I, based on World War II, independent stories, not one coherent campaign. And that does not work in a futuristic fictional setting because they've got no stories to go off. So yeah, I'm not surprised they got rid of that. The big news is probably current gen is going up to 128 players. So if you thought you were lost, Steve, on last gen with 64, PC and console are now aligning with 128. Last gen, I think, is still 64. Yeah. And so it's $10 cheaper. Basically, it's going up by $10 on current gen consoles, which is really weird because I tried to look at it today just to see what it actually costs, because I think we only got US prices. And on Xbox, at least, you can buy Xbox One only. That's $100. Or you can buy the fancy like gold edition, which is like $150. There's no Series X version to pre-order that I could find, which is
that's right,
unusual. Yeah, well, anyhow, that's pretty much it. I'm going to play it. It looks good. I got back into Battlefield with 1 and 5. So then going to that modern setting again, I'm into it. The price going up, at least it's not 125, like 110 is acceptable to a degree. 10% off with Game Pass anyway. Yeah. Are you going to play?
I am, but I want to hear what Hamish wants. I feel like I've talked too much.
I feel like I've talked too much. I spent like 10 minutes talking about both Extraction and Elden Ring. So
shut up, Hamish. You're the guest. Talk some more.
So I'll play 2042, even if it's not on Games Pass. I will have a crack. I played 1 last. I skipped 5. I tried the Battle Royale mode and that was awful.
Firestorm? Yeah. Anyway.
It's like they haven't been able to compete with COD for several generations now.
So are you a Warzone guy or like a Black Ops?
I played the shit out of Modern Warfare. A couple hundred hours into that, but I haven't touched Cold War because it just doesn't really appeal to me that much. Warzone had too many hackers, but that's a discussion for another time. 2042 though, I mean, I'm so uninspired by this game. It's a setting that we've seen fail multiple times for COD, like Infinite Warfare, Advanced Warfare, all those other ones just didn't work because I think there's something really primal about like old wars that like gamers want to connect to, and the future ones, it just, no one cares. Like, it's like way less interesting than ones that are grounded now or in the past. And the trailer was really uninspiring. Like, they did that stupid like jump out of the jet and shoot the dude and get back in. Like, that's just pandering. And I think that's them trying to make up for Battlefield 5, which was a flop. And there's no other way to say that. So I'm uninspired, but I'll play it anyway, which I think is what a lot of people will probably do. So
I think I'm pretty much exactly that opinion. It, like, the trailer looked cool, and like it's all about like Battlefield moments, and they didn't go as far as being like Levolution, but like I do dig those kind of things. I think there's a risk of it probably happened more like 4 and 1 for me. Like, those Battlefield moments were happening more often, where like 5 was kind of more like slow and kind of tactical, so it wasn't as like momentous, but it was still enjoyable. So like, I don't know, like if that's kind of where things are shifting to like a faster time to kill and stuff, like I'm kind of there for it, I guess. I don't know. I like Battlefield. Like I was saying, talking to you the other week, Ben, like I like a COD game, because, you know, I know how to play a COD game, and I like a Battlefield game because I think I know how to play a Battlefield game. I don't know if that's going to change with this one or not, but it's one of those ones where I will only basically play with friends. So, and that goes to the problem of playing with friends, but whatever. Like, it should be fun. Yes.
And like Battlefield 4 was actually the first game we ever played together, Steve. So that's a big deal for me. But like Battlefield 1 was probably the most batshit I think the series got, like with like planes spinning around on flagpoles and like the blimp just like going insane. But I think they kind of jumped the shark there as well. So maybe they do need to tone it back down. But then you've got games like, on PC at least, you've got games like Hell Let Loose, which I think might be coming to PS4 at some point, but and PS5 now. But there's games that do what Battlefield wants to do, and they do it better. And there's games that do what COD wants to do, and that's COD, right? So where does Battlefield fit in there now for Battlefield 2042? Like, how are they going to be approachable but distinct enough, I think, to be an interesting proposition? But like you said, I'll play it with friends, and I'll probably like it. So,
would you rather Battlefield 2042 or Titanfall 3?
Titanfall 3.
Ben?
Every day.
For the single player campaign, yeah. Well, I mean, that throws back to they sabotaged Titanfall 2 with Battlefield 1, like launching them a week apart. The review events were the same thing, and like they just didn't care about Titanfall. Like, they were like, here's Battlefield, get that done first, and do Titanfall if you feel like it. Like, weird. Anyway, disappointing, because Titanfall 2 was great. But I like Battlefield 1, as you say, for that reason of it slowed everything down so much, and it came out in that time when we just had Advanced Warfare, Infinite Warfare. So COD was going like, kept stepping up. We need to go quicker. We need to go like combat loop constantly. And Battlefield went the other way. It went, let's go real slow. Let's go World War I with this, with guns that are going to jam after like firing twice. And it was just so much slower from what we'd had at the time that's why I got into it again. Like, it was a slower pace. You take your time. There's a lot more going on the overall Battlefield. And here it seems like they've accidentally gone back to, and it's hectic again. There's this futuristic, there's jets exploding. And what they probably noticed, like, what is our thing? And it's just more players on the field. Let's do more on the battlefield. Like, well, to a degree, that is their thing, Hamish. I think that's what they're trying to look for. But as you say, other people can do that now. It's not, the early 2000s when they're the only one doing that successfully. So, yeah, I'm not sure. It depends what COD does. I do think they have an advantage of COD hasn't been announced. Something has gone terribly wrong with this year's COD to the degree it hasn't been announced. Apparently, every Activision studio is working on it to try to get it done. It's probably not going to be great. But if it is World War II again, I'm more inclined probably to go back there because it's different. As much as we got saturated with that at a point, we kind of went back around full circle that I'm done with future modern. So yeah, I kind of liked going back to the slower pace.
And I think that the best Battlefield game to come out since, in my opinion, probably 3 is Modern Warfare. Like, Call of Duty Modern Warfare did that Battlefield thing where you have like the capture points and the tanks and that did it way better. Like Modern Warfare was a great game and it killed Battlefield in every single way. And it helped that it came out against Battlefield 5. But as you said, the next COD game, I think it's Sledgehammer again, and they're doing World War II, as you said. But like that's what everyone is assuming. It sounds like it's going very poorly.
It's a problem. You know, there's a rumor that they have. So they re-released Modern Warfare 2's campaign a few years ago, but there's a rumor that they're just remastering the multiplayer, so they have something to put out this year as like a fail-safe backup, which is not a promising situation from a publisher which has always managed to get its cut out because they know they're going to make hundreds of millions out of this. So it's just a formality. Something has gone terribly wrong. So DICE, step up. Like, this is your moment.
I can't wait to hear what went wrong from Jason Schreier in a couple months.
Yeah, that's it.
And I know talking like a Titanfall 3 is like, good luck, buddy. But like, if you want like a futuristic kind of shooter, like Apex Legends kind of is filling that void, especially at EA. So like, a futuristic setting is kind of strange. Like even a modern day setting isn't a futuristic setting. Anyway, I think we've beaten this to a thing, and we've beaten this to a thing. There we go. And I've taken up too much of your time. Do you want to finish off? I don't know if like there even is one, to be honest. Do you want to pick your best of show so far from what we've talked about?
There isn't one. There's nothing I'm excited for so far that we didn't already know about. Like, you know, Far Cry 6 looks good. I'm interested in playing. But like, of stuff that we learned about today, nothing. Or the last few days.
Yeah, there's nothing big and exciting really been announced so far, but it's also day one of the conference, right? Like we're doing this like basically smack bang at the start. So maybe there'll be something come out in the next couple of days. But I mean, yeah, I'm excited for Elden Ring. I think I'm excited for Extraction as well. But like we knew about those. Those aren't new things really. So
well, I think like we've said this, we've said it today. Ben and I have said it before. Like it's a COVID world and things have been impacted, obviously. Like we only have really out of the big hitters Bethesda, Xbox, and Nintendo to go. So like I'm sure they'll have some good stuff, but I don't think there's going to be anything like jaw-droppingly amazing. I hope so, but like I think it's almost better to set your expectations realistically and maybe be surprised. What a great note to end on.
Yep.
What a downer.
Hamish, how do we find you on the internets?
Well, I write for this small indie website you might not have heard of quite often. It's called Stevivor. You can find all my garbage thoughts over there, or you can find me at Hamish SL on Twitter.
They're very not garbage thoughts. I would just like to point out. Ben, how do we find you?
I am Ben_Salter on Twitter, and that's it for me. That's where all my thoughts are.
Has Port played this weekend? No. Yes. No.
Yeah, but I restrain myself. Anyway, where do you find you on Twitter? on the internet, I mean. Wright
AU. If you want my address, I won't give it to you unless you're Xbox, because I want one of those blankets. They look really comfortable, and I don't have one yet, but that's beside the point. We'll be back tomorrow, theoretically, Ben and I with Oz Gamers to do a breakdown of Microsoft and Bethesda. Hamish, thank you for joining us, though.
It's been my pleasure.
And we'll see you tomorrow, and we'll see you in a couple days for Nintendo. Okay, bye.